of pregnant and postpartum women in America's prisons and jails. And I'll yield to Senator Booker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a wide room here for bipartisan work, and I'm grateful for my experiences with the First Step Act when we came forward on these issues and found from the White House, then the Trump White House, to Republican colleagues and others. I want to particularly thank Senator Durbin, who really has been the champion of so many of these issues. And under his leadership and having the chance to partner with him on the First Step Act, we were able to make some progress. But clearly, we still live in a nation where what goes on in our prisons is horrible. And what compounds that horror is the abject lack of knowledge that these things are going on. I mean, I'm still shocked that our government, which is responsible, our Article 1 branch of the Constitution, Article 1 branch being Congress, has a responsibility to provide oversight. We spend billions of dollars to incarcerate human beings, but there's an utter lack of knowledge about what our regular routine practices in our American prisons, not to mention our American prisons and jails. And the testimony here today, which is gut-wrenching and painful, and I thank the witnesses for being here and retelling what has to be trauma in your lives and not your family. It is so urgent that this truth-telling happen because it shocks the moral conscience of a country that allows these practices to go on. And here's the painful truth, that we throw people into environments that re-traumatize folks who often have been traumatized. And most of the people that go to our prisons and jails come out again, now more harmed and more hurt than when they went in. And so if this is really about public safety, we do things that undermine and insult the idea that our prisons and jails should be places, yes, of punishment, but also should be places that empower people, that when they come out, they should never return, that empower people on pathways of redemption and rehabilitation. And it is grievously painful to know these details, only some of which are being talked about here, about what happens to the most vulnerable people in our society who are survivors of sexual trauma, who struggle with mental health issues, who have often been victimized, and who often struggle with addiction, that we would put them into an environment that would so compound these problems. I cannot tell you the horrors of being put into solitary confinement. Most countries call what we do to vulnerable people torture. Ms. Umberger, to you being in the immediate hours of postpartum and being put in solitary confinement after being traumatized, not for days, but for weeks, is unconscionable that it happens in this country. Unconscionable what you were put through. As Senator Durbin says, it is cruel. It is fundamentally cruel. And I know Ms. Suffren knows this, Dr. Suffren knows this, that all the data shows that we empower women, we facilitate their connections to their children, we give them not just medical treatment, but socio-psychological support, that they actually have recidivism rates that crash to the floor. And the bonds of their families, not only are they supported, but the data shows clearly that even their children's run-ins with the law go far down. We know from evidence and research that trauma is generational, and we are creating not only assaults on individual dignity of the women, but we are hurting and harming families in ways that will haunt our society and those individuals directly affected. And so, Mr. Chairman, I am grateful for this hearing, but I ache. Every prison and jail I've gone to shows me how much we waste taxpayer dollars, causing more and more harm to our society and individuals we incarcerate. And how there are obvious ways that we could be investing in the well-being of people behind bars that would empower them to be successful in their lives, and empower their families. This is one of the more shameful elements of American society, when all the data, all the research, all the evidence shows that we could do this in a better way that would make us safer and stronger as a society. I do hope we continue to hold hearings on this, because I know my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. There is no way, Mr. Chairman, that shining lights on this can do anything but move us and inspire us to find bipartisan solutions so that these horrors that belong in a long-forgotten Byzantine age should not exist in our society today. Again, I'm sorry that you had to come here. This should not be necessary. And what's even more painful is to know that the stories you told are not rare and not unusual, but exist all across this country at a rate that should shock the conscience of us all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Booker. As you all may have noted, Senator Ossoff had to